He's gonna sweat it and come in, either on time or a little bit late.
With picture.
Okay, Lynn is here, so we got, of the 4 starters, we got 3.
Yeah.
Aradana,
Oh, yeah.
am I pronouncing it right? Aradana.
Zoom. Cool.
Barbara's not here yet. Magana or Megna may not make it, may not be able to make it. And Rita, we don't know, but Leanne is coming in. She's coming in towards the end anyway, so that'll.
She said 7:15-ish, so we'll.
Look at that picture. Look at that. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Boy.
What a motley crew.
Yes. That name's already been taken up.
Yeah,
You
it
can't use it. Wordlarks is original.
has. Yeah.
That's what we call ourselves now, Randy.
What's that? Word
The Wordlarks.
marks? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good name.
Good a name
How
as
long-
any.
How long this will go?
Chile.
How what?
Yeah, how long this event is going to be?
Supposed to be
This presentation, as long as we make it, because I gotta milk the time.
Chile.
You know, I have a lot to cover with the history and the poetry.
Okay.
Here's Big John.
Sure.
Hey, this is John Daly, rack on tour around town. He's gonna rack on tour for us, and he's auditing for the mayor.
Okay.
What's up?
You kiss the Barney son?
No, I'm heterosexual.
I actually did kiss the
I
Barney.
should have saved that for 6:30.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I do not know Blarney stuff.
Oh, my goodness.
My wife does, though. Have to be careful. I think she has kissed the Blarney Stone. Does everybody know the Blarney Stone? Do you know what
Yes.
I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My
You
husband
go
went
to
to Ireland
Ireland.
and did that.
There's a famous stone that goes back legendary time to Celtic times and so forth. So for good fortune and good luck, you kiss the Blarney Stone. But what to do it, you have to lean backwards and down under. So it's like in a cave mouth and so forth. So it's very awkward. So the thing is, you know, it's a good photo opportunity. See somebody make a fool of themselves as they're trying to kiss the stone. You know, it's nonsense that turned into a commercial deal.
It is a big deal though over there.
Notice John is taking notes, so be careful what you
Alrighty.
say. Diana, you're here.
Hi, I'm here.
Perfect.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Don't
I
worry.
had the opportunity to take my mother home,
Oh,
and that was probably the best adult vacation because she was able to share, because she
nice.
was born in Ireland.
That's
But we did do
beautiful.
the Blind Stone. She just sat outside and watched.
Yeah. Oh, my
And
husband,
yes, you have to bend over.
you do. My husband had stage 4 colon cancer and the oncologist, because he was terminal, okayed him to make the trip. And he went on a 10-day tour, did it. They helped him bend over to do that because he retained so
Yes,
much
yeah.
water. Highlight of his life.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful.
She,
Cool.
for my mother, she was
Yeah,
able
so
to
if you go to
share
Ireland,
2 of her
ask
grandchildren.
around for the Blarney Stone.
Sure.
You know,
That's wonderful.
There's only one.
Yeah.
It's only a one chance in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So we were staying in a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
uh, And it was basically run by the wife. And so the husband came home and he took me down to the local pub. And they showed I was a Yank bringing his mother home. They wouldn't let me buy a round.
Oh.
And I had a hangover because I was drinking.
Oh, my goodness.
Guinness is much stronger than
Yeah, the
Irish.
Guinness, yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, well,
Okay.
now we're good.
Randy, let's go through this a little quickly. Diana, what's the theme of your poem? If Randy were to do a picture for it, what would it be?
Like spring, like the early
Spring?
seasons of spring. Yeah, like blossoming season.
Huh, I don't know if I.
Anything of the seasons, right? Did you say the seasons?
Not all the seasons.
Just
no.
mostly
No.
spring.
Just spring.
Just brain?
Spring,
Oh,
spring.
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 Okay, yeah, anything
Yeah.
that looks like spring.
Well, I already already have the slides. I can't do it on the fly.
No, but I'm just, so you know, what to
I don't know. I have this for Leanne's flowers, but they go with her. So.
Okay, well, you can flash one of hers for.
Okay, yeah, we might have to improvise on it.
Okay,
Should be.
let
Did
me
you get my
see.
text this morning?
No,
Barbara,
I sent it to you, yeah.
no. you
Barbara,
must-
why don't you sit down here
Okay.
to fill it up?
Yeah, just,
Okay, great. We're, Randy, we're ready to go. We're at full strength.
I sent it because
Okay.
I hadn't seen you and I wanted
No,
to
I didn't
I
remind
guess
you.
everybody
That's not
can
my
hear me
phone
out there.
number.
I
Oh,
imagine they can.
okay.
615-414-7241.
Let me check.
Yeah, you were gonna send me a picture and all that, I didn't get it.
You didn't?
No,
I think we're starting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, are we on?
Okay,
It's
we're
okay,
all
so-
set?
So, well, yeah, we can start at any time. We're good to go.
Okay.
We have a good number here.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
get your
gonna be
number later.
introducing and, then we'll get rolling.
Okay.
Okay, welcome one and all. This is a celebration. The key thing for April 29th, and I looked this up on the calendars that Randy and I worked on. April 29th, 1975, I have down as the 50th birthday of the South Brunswick Public Library on this day.
Wow.
So we're
What was the
going,
date again?
I have April 29th, 1975.
Wow.
75. Yeah, well, it opened in 69.
I thought it was- I thought it was 69
Yeah.
for the
69.
ranch.
69 for this building, 68 for the one next door.
Okay, well, where am I getting the 50th birthday?
I don't
April
know.
29th. Maybe it was celebrated years ago and I didn't write down the year.
Maybe,
No,
yeah.
Okay,
68,
but April
69.
29th is a birthday date of the library. Right? Doesn't
Uh,
matter the year.
It's library week. I have to look it up. I have to
Oh,
look it
okay,
up. But this
okay.
building's 69.
A challenge for you. Okay, so that's one of the things that we're celebrating. We're of course celebrating National Poetry Month. And this is the finale of a month of activities. We have been involved in a few of them, such as the reading at the municipal building. And this is it. We're going to finish the month in fine fettle, as they say. We have some distinguished poets with us tonight. Diana Regal, Suva Chalapin, Pooja Pathak, Lynn Kearns, Aradhana Nacharajan, Barbara Lee, and Lee Ann Smith is going to join us later. So we have a full lineup here of people who are going to make history by reading poems of today. Now, they called upon me, being the oldest here at the table. I think I'm older than John Daly, I'm not sure. But I have to do the history. So I'm going to do the historical part of the poetry, and I'm going to take you back to the very early days of South Brunswick. This was a time when you didn't have too many poets walking around the South Ward. That was the early name for South Brunswick. And in the South Ward, it was basically farmers. Might be some stagecoach drivers, might be people passing through along the King's Highway, which would be Route 27. And what I did was I found some tavern drinking songs, which are sort of poetic. And I picked out two that I'm going to read to you, and I think you'll find them quite interesting. George Bingham Jr. in 1738 put together a catalog of these drinking songs. And one of the things that was going on in South Brunswick was the social center for the people in the area was the tavern. That's where the men hung out, and that's where they made merry, drank alcohol, went crazy, and so forth. And some of the, a few of the visuals here will show you that. Anyway, poetry back in those days, and we're talking about the early 1700s, and we have as a starting point for South Brunswick area 1700. So we're not too far off when I say 1738, be like the first generation. They used the Bible for verse. They used the hymnal. at the church for verse, and of course, the drinking songs. That was about it. So without further ado, let me read to you The Miller and the King. He eats when he's hungry, he drinks when he's dry, and down when he's weary, contented does lie. Then rises up cheerful to work and to sing. If so happy a miller, then who'd be a king?
Who's the author?
We don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
A lot of drinking songs are anonymous because they were drinking a lot. They couldn't write.
Aw.
Okay, this is one that I've read before to the group. This is called The Fly. And imagine this, a heavy drinker, and he's reciting this, and he's reciting it as a poem. Busy, curious, thirsty fly, drink with me and drink as I. Freely welcome to my cup, couldst thou sip and sip it up. Make the most of life you may, life is short and wears away. Both alike, both mine and thine, hasten quick to their decline. Thine's a summer, mine no more, though repeated to 60. 60 summers, when they're gone, will appear as short as one. And now I'm going to turn it over to Diana.
So
And Diana, you can introduce your poem.
Okay, so my poem is Blossoming Season. Rebirth, new beginnings, new adventures, blossoming season. Buds filling with sprinkles of rain, flowers bursting from heated sun, picturesque moments, beauty and essence, blossoming season. Robins chirping in their nests like a choir singing at church, chanting love in the air, blossoming season. A time for planting vegetables, nourishing the earth, blue skies and white dancing clouds, blossoming season. Spring is awakening, brightening up the world. Open your eyes to beautiful sights. Blossoming season is here to rejuvenate.
Excellent. This is a timely poem because we're starting, the spring. We're going to be moving into May. So it's right on target. And this gives you a taste of what the poetry workshop is doing. We were talking before, we call ourselves the Word Larks. And we're in the process of publishing our first chapbook. And everybody here has donated to that chapbook. And we're waiting patiently for the bureaucracy to grind slowly towards that finishing point where it'll finally be available to the public. And we're not holding our breath because we want to stay alive. But eventually and hopefully in May, it'll be around.
That's the goal.
Okay, now, we move on to the King's Highway. Because this is a very important thing in the history of the South Ward, South Brunswick. And this is the King's Highway going through Princeton.
Wow.
Randy spared no expense.
Yeah, that's
to
still
get
there,
that.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a jewelry
That's-
store.
Yeah, that's still there. That's a landmark. That's a
Hamilton's
landmark.
jewelry, yeah.
That is awesome.
We used to have 3 of those buildings, but they burned down.
Oh, they did?
Didn't they, John? They all
It's a
burned down.
horse
So we had
drawn
3, and
carriage.
Princeton
Yes.
only had
Isn't
1.
that cool?
Wow.
You're agreeing with me, of course.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now, I
What
have
is the year on the bottom left-hand side? I think my. I see-
1835, 36?
36, 1, yeah.
1836, one it says.
They didn't take
I don't think
photographs
it's the
back
year.
then.
I think
No,
that's
yeah,
just from
I
the
think you're
series.
right.
Yeah.
That's just from a series.
Yeah, I don't think it's an official date.
That might be like 1900.
That wouldn't be 1836 because
No.
you see the carriage and all that.
Yeah.
Also the
That would be
telephone
dog type.
wires.
Now you
Yeah,
go down
unless you
and
had
see
a telephone.
the
Yeah.
Tesla, right? The Teslas.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's probably turn of the
Yeah.
century.
I
Yeah, it
would
looks
think
like
so.
turn of
the
century, yeah.
Turn of the century.
Okay.
So cool.
You can see
I
the
know
light
we're in a
poles.
series of photos.
I don't see any cars.
So we don't think that that's
No.
an actual.
No, not yet,
No.
not yet.
Wait, maybe one back there. I don't know.
Huh?
There might be one in the distance. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Is that electricity lines?
Yeah,
Must be,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Had electricity, okay.
Oh, yeah, well, that's Princeton. you know.
That's Princeton, yeah.
Okay, now, I'm going to be reading about the Kings Highway. You know it is Route 27. And that was the road back in the old days. And now we're up to the Revolutionary War. So the date of this poem is 1777. And again, it's anonymous. We don't know who wrote this poem. It's entitled The Jersey Road. It was 2 years ago. Two armies lay encamped at night near the King's Highway, leading from Princeton to Trenton down. When Whigs fought fiercely the British crown, 'twas a winter thaw, it was raw and damp to the Yankee council in the Trenton camp. Washington's veterans shook their heads. We are trapped, it seems, by the cursed Reds. We must fight. There's no other way to do. But the general calmly around him drew the great gray cloak that they so well knew, and into the outer darkness strode, till he reached the fence by the Jersey Road. That Jersey Road, 'twas a sight to see. The mire was up to the horse's knee. As the British knew, when on yonder steep, in their tents, they sank into a peaceful sleep, and dreamed of victory won with ease on the morrow with raw recruits like these. In front, the enemy fixed and fast, around deep roads that could not be passed. Behind, the Delaware, wild and black, like an angered snake, was in his track. The Patriot army could not go back. Was Washington crushed by the awful load? Nay, he knelt and prayed by the Jersey Road. History tells what happened then, how right in the view of his anxious men, the sleet storm ceased and the stars came forth, with a sharp wind out of the icebound north. How almost before the prayer was done, the answer came and escape was won. How out of reach of the frowning hosts, and the handful of patriots moved like ghosts, leaving their fires to burn till day. The British thinking the rebels lay in the jaws of battle and easy prey, nor dreamed the truth that the morning showed, how heaven had hardened the Jersey Road. Okay, and we're talking about the Second Battle of
Second
Trenton
Battle of Trenton.
and how Washington tricked Cornwallis and the British and got out of there in the middle of the night, snuck up to Princeton, and after the Battle of Princeton, then got back on the Jersey Road. We're talking about Route 27, came to Kingston, and then they decided up on the hill in Kingston, well, we better not go and attack New Brunswick because we're exhausted. We better head to the hills. And that's how they got up to Morristown.
Do you know where the hill is in Kingston?
You've
You know
driven
where
on
Route
it.
27 is?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go on Route 27, right in the middle of Kingston, and you head south, and you're gonna have a traffic like Academy Road. The hill is the cemetery.
Right, so when
The
you
hill
get
is the
down to go
cemetery.
over that bridge to go to Princeton, Washington was on the top of that hill.
With his generals after the Battle of Princeton.
Right,
And he had the angry British chasing him.
right, about 2 hours behind.
And so there was two things that were decided from that hill. The first was to knock down a bridge over the Millstone River.
Yeah.
The bridge that's there now is obviously very modern. The original bridge, the
That's hidden.
foundations, is literally still there. It was replaced. If you go into the lock tender's house, you go, when you go down the hill, you make a left and you go, there's a park there, DNR Canal.
Right.
You go in there and park. Okay. That bridge goes into a replica of the original bridge. The original bridge was knocked down to slow the British down. But that's what Ed said is right. There was a decision made on that hill.
It's called the Conference on Horseback.
That's right.
Right.
That was a key Key
And so,
choice.
some of the generals, see, one of the great things about George Washington was he allowed his generals to have input in the decisions that were made. There are several top generals who just make decisions on their own. And they don't counsel with their generals. And Washington was very good at that. Now, I have a sneaky suspicion, he already had his mind made up, but he makes it look like they're having the input that's going to make the final decision. And there were a few of the generals, I think St. Clair was one of them, who wanted to attack New Brunswick. Now, why would you march up Route 27 and attack New Brunswick with a worn-out army?
Yeah.
Well, there were only about 200 regulars in New Brunswick at the time, and they were guarding the war chest.
I'm
And
not
if
sure that was known.
Washington was able to get that war chest, that would have been a nice chunk of change to work, to pay for things for the army. Unfortunately, there were two things that happened. The British got notice that the Americans may attack New Brunswick, so they hightailed the war chest over to, you know where Johnson Park is, across Landing Lane Bridge. The dragoons got the war chest over there, set up a little protection thing there, and waited to be attacked. It never came because Washington made the final decision with his generals to move to Pluckerman. Okay, that's where you went. You know where Rockingham is now?
Mhm.
Okay, well, they went by Rockingham and some of them went across the Griggstown Bridge. They went back in there. Okay, they went up to Pluckerman, then from Pluckerman, they went to Morristown.
One of the people that served as a lieutenant or an aide in that part of the war was a guy named Alexander Hamilton.
Wow.
And Hamilton's claim to fame, you talk about Route 27 and all that, when in the Battle of Princeton, they got to the main building in Old Nassau Hall in Princeton, Washington had to have some artillerymen fire on the building because the British wouldn't come out. And the British were guard there over the prisoners who were in the basement. And those were American prisoners. So he called upon Hamilton and another artillery unit. Hamilton was a captain of some artillery. And Hamilton got the credit for firing on the building, but it was the other guy who probably did the firing and hit the building. As soon as the cannonball hit the building, didn't do much damage at all. The British all kept scurrying out. Okay, that's it. They gave up.
Do you know the building, if you're in Princeton and you see this big purple building or big,
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
it faces the
that
road.
was at the time the largest building in the
Yeah,
colony.
yeah.
Dang.
And it was
Oh, yeah.
one time, for a short period of time, the capital of the United Colonies
Wow.
Really?
in 1782 and 1783.
Now, the reason that we're telling you all this is to inspire you to write some poems to get ready for 2026. See, because you guys are the ones that are going to be writing the poetry for 2026. Okay?
That, by the way, I really like that last poem. Whoever the author is, not only does it tell a story, but you can almost picture the scene.
Yeah.
Well,
Very
that's because
descriptive.
of the way that I read it.
We're gonna have to get a bigger door. So
Yeah,
his head-
definitely, yeah.
Okay, Suba, you're at the plate.
Let me just just real quick here. On further up on 27 in South Brunswick, the structure on the right is the Woods Tavern, and
yes.
that was actually there during the Revolutionary War. And later on, a guy named Robert Priest owned the house, and he was a drummer in the Revolutionary War. And that's right there, right here in South Brunswick, right across from the Dutch Reformed Church.
And the other tidbit is that at one time Route 27 was called Lincoln's Highway.
Yeah.
This was also, I think, a Native American route
First, yeah.
before.
Yeah, this is part of the Assunpink Trail.
And at one time, one of the first interstate highways went from the lighthouse out on the South Fork of Long Island to a place called San Francisco. And it's Route 27.
Okay, now there are two
1913.
interesting things on this. Stick on that picture, Randy. A woman ran the tavern. Widow Woods ran the tavern. So that's a bonus point for women during the Revolution.
Huh,
And you see the 6 Mile Run Church across the way.
uh-huh.
That's I think that's the older part. But there was a rooster weather vane. I don't know if it's still up there on the top of the roof. And both armies, when they marched, either coming toward to get to Princeton or to get to New Brunswick, they would use this as a rest stop, and some of the men would take target practice on that rooster and fire their muskets at the rooster.
Hmm.
The
Route
rooster
27.
did survive the Revolutionary War, but it was a little messed up.
Route 27 was the main road between New York and Philadelphia.
Right. And imagine it dirt, ruddy, not unpaved. It was a mess, and especially in rainy weather. And it wasn't as this wide either. I believe it was 4 rods wide at its widest in the old days. And that's,
Probably half the size of what it is.
yeah, probably
Was
so.
it still enough for like 2 horse carriages to go in opposite directions? or-
Yeah, there would be enough room for that, but you'd be near the shoulder, and that would be where it would be the roughest.
People on horseback.
You gotta better be
wagons.
careful.
Yeah.
Okay, Sylvia, you all set?
Yes.
So which one are we doing? Which visual am I using?
Well, that's up to Suba.
She's
What's
just
your
new.
basic thing?
Yes, I'm going to tell about that. So for the inspiration of this poem is for past 1 month, I've been reading a lot of reading and watching documentary of World War and visited Europe. So I'm going to talk about the sad part of the history.
Okay, so history, a book, Europe,
Overall history.
okay.
In general, not just this, overall in general, how the history
You have an
was.
overall history picture?
No, no, I don't have.
Which war was it? that you-
How about a picture of the woods?
Picture those.
You can-
I don't have any. Not.
You can,
I
I
have
suppose
mosquitoes.
Did you get one?
something
Yeah.
about sky also you can have it.
Sky?
Yeah.
I might have sky.
Yeah.
Let me look in here.
Reading sky.
Okay,
Work on the
that's
flyer.
not gonna do it.
Hold on.
So
Oh,
the
there's a
title,
good one.
the
There
title
you
is
go. How about
Waiting
that?
Sky.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the Alps in Europe. For today it is.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's out west, actually.
Well, it's Western Alps. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. The waiting sky. The sky remains heavy, clouded for longer than memory dares to reach. A foggy breath challenges me as I walk backward through history. Humans were not kind enough. They let beasts tear the world, while swords spoke louder than hearts. Ideas mattered more than lives. Followers were gathered by any means, but beyond the ideas, it was always the ego that ruled. Humans were not kind enough. Power was the only altar. Tears freeze me in my steps, unable to journey further. Sons slaughtered fathers, wives betrayed husbands. Bodies were crucified as casually as cutting bread. History never taught humanity. At the cliff's edge, life and death dangling like threads. They captured the living, forced them into bloodied arenas, cheered as life drained away. They drank human blood like some sacred tonic. Then evolved, tossing animals into the pit for sport, for gold, for greed. The sky, old and waiting, still looks down, year after aching year. History is not a ghost far behind us. It lived just 1 minute ago.
Wow.
Mhm,
Very
Yeah.
mhm.
excellent. Filled with imagery. And
Oh, yeah.
I think the picture with the sky looking down, I think we did it. We did it.
Yes, I like this picture.
I like
Very good.
I like how it's a couple of the stanzas you repeat the thought. And then in my eyes, you delivered the home run. with the last two paragraphs.
Yeah.
The last paragraph is like, oh, this is very, thank you.
And anybody can make comments, after somebody reads their poem. So John, thank you. That's very good. Okay, Randy, I think we're ready for the women's vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got that. Coming up.
Another interesting thing about the history as we get up to the turn of the century. Now, when I say turn of the century, we're talking about going from the 1700s to the 1800s, because you're talking about 250 years of history here. The thing that's unique about New Jersey and what was going on in South Brunswick, but mostly the cities like New Brunswick and Trenton, and Newark, and so forth, women had the right to vote in New Jersey from 1776. They got it during the American Revolution, and they lost it in 1807. Then, of course, they gained it back after the women's rights movement and all that, and the women's suffrage movement, and so forth. But in this rural area, and all the research I've done, there isn't any indication of women voting or women getting involved in politics whatsoever. However, that doesn't mean it wasn't going on, because there were people who were campaigning for office, and the wives would help out with that. And they would have socials and functions and that sort of thing. And so women were involved, but at a very small scale. As far as officially voting, I don't have any record of that. And one of the problems with South Brunswick records is that a fire at the one of the McDowell houses in town destroyed all the records for several decades. So we don't have record of who had what office. And I think it goes from this time period, this 1807 thing, up to about 1840, where we don't have any records of who was the commissioner of the poor, who was the tax collector, that sort of thing for the local area. So we're at a handicap with that. So we have to imagine the role of women at this time. Anyway, in one of the newspapers, this became a very popular poem in New Jersey, and it is done at a time that's right in the middle. This is the 1790s. Okay, and it's called The Freedom of Election. New Jersey, hail, thrice happy state, thy genius still befriend thee. The art obedient round thee wait, and science still attends thee. In freedom's cause you gain applause, and nobly spurn subjection. You're now the oracle of laws, and freedom of election. Let Democrats with senseless prate maintain the softer sex, sir. Should ne'er with politics of state their gentle minds perplex, sir. Such vulgar prejudice we scorn, their sex is no objection. New trophies shall our brows adorn, by freedom of election. What we read in days of yore, the woman's occupation was to direct the wheel and loom, not to direct the nation. This narrow-minded policy by us hath met detection. While women's bound, man can't be free, nor have a fair election. Oh, what parade those widows made, some marching cheek by jowl, sir. In stage or chair, some beat the air and pressed on to the pole, sir. While men of rank who played this prank beat up the widows' quarters. Their hands they laid on every maid, and scarce spared wives or daughters. This precious clause of section laws we shortly will amend, sir, and women's rights with all our mights will labor to defend, sir. To Congress, lo, widows shall go, like metamorphoses witches, clothed with dignity of state, and eke in coat and breeches. Then freedom hail, thy powers prevail, or prejudice and error. No longer shall man tyrannize and rule the world in terror. Now one and all proclaim the fall of tyrants. Open wide your throats and welcome in the peaceful scene of government in petticoats. Now, one of the things, when women could vote, they had to show that they had 500 pounds of wealth. The additional thing is free African Americans could vote also in New Jersey, as long as they showed their wealth and they showed that they were citizens of the state. And they had to have residency in the place where they voted for at least a year, and then they could vote. But the criminal thing that happened, now this is a poem supporting the idea of women voting. They had it, they lost it, and they won it back again. And so New Jersey could have the bragging thing, oh yeah, we had women voting right from the beginning. But then they took it away. Yeah. Julio, welcome.
Thank you. Two thoughts. And this picture means something personally. My paternal grandmother was a women's suffragette. And there's a lot of beautiful history. But I was listening to the poem, and even though there's a part of me that thinks if you go back to how traditional families, agriculture or early whatever, were formed, and the role of the adults in the family, while the men went out, who was running the house, who was raising the children, think of everything that was going on by a homemaker. And it's covered in the poem a bit. And something tells me, while theoretically the men had the quote say, but in the house, I'd like to think that it was more of a joint effort by the two people. But the poem covers some of it. But I was thinking, what was it like to be a family farm? Just think about what that is and the role of homemaker.
Yeah.
Right.
So the
And by the
question,
way, if you have an interest in women's history, believe it or not, it's fascinating. I would highly recommend it. Believe it or not, there was in the early 1800s, so it was around here, there was a very strong movement in New England on behalf of women and Black. So they were joined together to get rights for both. But they split, I think, 1840s. And Seneca Falls is the birthplace of the women's suffragette movement. But it took almost 80 years to get the vote.
Right.
But that
Right, and John is,
poem is very good about.
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good poem.
Yeah. John is very close to the truth about who's ruling in the house. Now, we know that the man going into the house would always have the last word. Our last word is yes, dear.
even back then,
Even back then.
There are
It's
letters,
funny.
there are
Some dumb
letters,
ones that did, but they were the dummies.
there are letters between John Adams and his wife Abigail.
Oh, yeah.
And because he was away a lot of the time, and she was the one taking care of the farm, and it was a big farm or farms. But there are some wonderful letters, but she is not shy. I said, what's the famous quote, Randy? Something Abigail said to John when they're working on the Declaration of Independence, do not forget the women,
Okay,
something like that, yeah.
okay.
But
and a question. So this women staying at home, taking care of the home, and men going out. When did that get started? Isn't it something that initially, even before
Well,
the
that's
lands,
ancient.
that's ancient.
Because, see, we
became
started,
settlers.
before farming, we were hunter-gatherers.
correct?
Nomads.
Okay, now, you could take this with the Native Americans and the Lenni Lenape who lived in this area. The women did everything at the campsite. Okay, in other words, they built they stretched the limbs of the trees to build the huts and so forth. They took care of gathering the food and doing the planting of corn, all that. The men were out hunting and going, they might go out for days and then come back. The women were in charge. An interesting thing about the Lenni Lenape, though, the chief of the tribe in peacetime was a woman.
Yes.
And it was a matrilineal society. And that meant that all the people were claiming their descendancy from a woman who was running the tribe. And in those days, when they had a marriage, when somebody was wedded to somebody else, the male left his group, his clan or his tribe, and he came and lived with the wife's tribe, which was the opposite of many tribes who are around the Lenni Lenape. The Lenni Lenape were a passive tribe, not warlike. They were surrounded by some warlike tribes, and therefore they were at a disadvantage, and they had to pay tribute. And a lot of those warlike tribes called the men in the Lenni Lenape tribe women. They put them down because, but it's interesting that our tribe that was in this area was of that nature. So there's some interesting things there.
Randy, do you have any background on the picture?
No, and actually, I just grabbed it. I don't know that.
Because I see men and women, and it looks like women are casting their ballot.
Yeah, it's one of the first votes, but I don't know the
Right.
story of the picture.
If it may, is it New Jersey?
No, I don't know if it's New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
We can assume that it is.
Is it during the winter time?
It looks that way, right?
Well,
That's a good that's a good insight.
yeah, your major elections, like the presidential, some of it's in the fall. I think
Yeah.
it's either October or November.
Yeah.
And
Cold season.
people complained about that
But
because
look at look at the photo, see what you can learn from the photo. So I'm looking at the wonderful colors. There are no colors. I'm looking at the women's attire. It
Yeah.
looks very formal to me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And by the way, the structure that we were talking about, I believe that same structure may exist in your native cultures,
Yes.
where your parents or grandparents came from, in terms of how the family unit is structured and how things were,
Surprisingly, the history everywhere, it's kind of the same in the same period.
Yeah, basic
Yes.
nature stuff, yeah.
Basically,
Yes.
like how, that.
Another interesting thing about the picture, the hat is a status symbol. Fancier the hat,
Yeah.
or the more expensive
That
the
lady on
hat.
the left looked
the
like she's
higher
got
the
a fur
status.
on.
I'm sorry,
See the
Bob?
fur? That
Yeah.
lady
Yeah,
there looks
she's
like,
a-
she's
yeah.
got a fur. Like
Stole,
a-
yeah.
Like a
Oh, I
fox.
didn't see that.
Fur jacket.
Yeah.
Fur
And
jacket.
she has a necklace on.
Yes.
And her hat looks about the heaviest of the bunch.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's.
But that's also an interesting thing.
Yeah, but I don't know.
That could be from the, like the.
No, but I
1880s.
come from the 40s and the 50s, and what I remember the 50s, women wore hats. It was expected.
Yeah.
Not like that, though.
No.
No, not like that.
This is by the 20s.
Oh, they have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
1920.
Is that
Yeah,
mandatory?
Probably, I would guess
Got the
earlier.
vote.
But look at the men's suits. That's like a 1920s suit.
Yeah.
But see the collars? That's before 1920.
Oh, yeah, so all the
That's
women
turn of the
are
century.
wearing hat. All the women are wearing hats. So
Yeah.
that's that
Well,
a mandatory?
they're out in public.
Yeah,
In-
but they.
but the
only
thing
It
turned
was
the
like a
century,
requirement.
And women didn't get the right to vote till 1920.
20.
Yeah,
So this
right.
can't be turn of the century, it's 1920 or after.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the women are wearing the hats
Right.
inside.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
well,
It's
okay.
like that.
I don't see any women without a head covering.
They all have hats, yeah, that was the custom.
Yeah, because it couldn't be that as early as when they lost the vote.
No,
No.
this is
So it had to be, 1920.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's up next?
All right. Okay, Pooja, we're ready for you. What's your basic theme?
So, I have two poems. I have a third one for backup.
Okay.
The first one, it's titled Tulips, so,
Oh, a flower?
yeah.
Okay, you got a flower?
Well, but it's got Leanne's.
Well, Leanne isn't here, so show her flower and then
Okay.
we'll show it, and then she'll
There
think,
you
oh,
go,
my
oh,
flower.
Daffy. Yeah.
There you go. That's a spring flower.
Tulips. What cracks the emptying cup that causes cries to escape from my own two lips? Tightly ties to the disremembered petals and steps that I leave to wish you well. Through anamnesis, past the fields, in the tower of winds, memories take their destined path ahead of undetermined recollection.
And you're going right into your second poem.
Yes.
Okay.
1 second. I have to. Here it is. This one's a shorter one. It's called. It's a haiku titled "Glass Frog Apolog." Soritis advised to resist tepidity, lest your guts spill out.
Everybody familiar with a haiku?
Mhm.
Okay, and
Thank you.
they didn't have haiku in the old days. And so this is we'll have to call this a modern concept. Very good, very good. Okay, now we finish up with the old days, the real old days with 1830s. And this is another big change, and I just happened to stumble across this, and I'm working on the history of South Brunswick right now, 1800 to 1825. I've done everything on the 18th century, and now I'm going to be working on the 19th century. And one of the big things that happened was the big switch in transportation, going from the stagecoach to the railroad, and in between the canal boats, which didn't last too long. And this is a poem, again anonymous, sort of wistful thinking about the passing of the stagecoach. And the stagecoach was big. It put Kingston on the map because a lot of people considered Kingston the halfway point between Philly and New York. It's not technically it if you measure it out, but that was where the stagecoaches would stop. People would get off, go to the inns and so forth. That meant revenue for Kingston, and get on another stage because the one that brought them from Philly to Kingston would now get the passengers that got off the stage from New York and get on and go back to Philly. And the one that takes off from Kingston to go to New York was the one that brought people to Kingston. So in other words, people took two stages to get from Philly to New York. A lot of people think they took one, but it's not. That's not the way it worked. Okay. We hear no more of the clanging hoof and the stagecoach rattling by, for the steam king rules the traveled world, and the old pike's left to die. The grass creeps o'er the flinty path, the stealthy daisies steal, where once the stage horse, day by day, lifted his iron heel. And the old pike road is left alone, as the stagers seek the plow. We have circled the earth with an iron rail, and the steam king rules us now. Wow. Now, the road that they're talking about is Route 27. This is a local view of the thing. And there's your steam engine coming around the bend. One of the problems with putting the rails in this area was the bend where Dean's Pond is. And you see that railroad disaster right there?
Mhm.
That's what happened when
Yeah.
that bend. There were many railroad accidents like that. And in this one here, a few people died.
Oh, boy.
And probably one of the most famous ones had to do with John Quincy Adams, who was on the train with some other dignitaries. And they had a
Vanderbilt.
railroad wreck.
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt. And a steel rod came through the floor
Oh,
and almost impaled Vanderbilt.
oh my God.
And Vanderbilt had to stay in South Brunswick in somebody's house, so we haven't figured out which house, to recuperate. before he got back on the road. And Vanderbilt was one of the wealthiest people in the country at the time. John Quincy Adams got out of it unscathed, but that's probably the most famous wreck. This is one of the famous ones because of the number of people who were injured and got killed. But you could see.
Did it jump the tracks or something?
Yeah,
There's
the engineer
Dean's
took the bend too fast.
There was another train on the tracks that
Right,
collided. But that right over there, where this going over the edge, that's Dean's Pond right over there. And some of the I think the engineer was actually in the pond. So they went through the trees. Just beyond the trees is the pond.
So those tracks are, well, there's the Amtrak tracks we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
they're-
straightened
So
that
where,
out.
where did the accident actually take place? Do you know?
just by Dean's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that-
by
that
Dean's
Dean-
Pond,
Dean's
yeah.
Pond Lane,
Yeah,
Dean's
Dean's Pond.
Pond, right in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's
Right,
actually,
close to George's Road.
Wow.
yeah, really
Yeah.
close.
And you can walk back in there and check it out.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And by the way,
That's it.
I find it
That is
I
interesting.
find it ironic that setting of it is, quote, midway between New York and Philly.
Yeah,
And believe it or not, that's what gave rise to all the warehouses.
yeah.
You know, I mean, the turnpike in the 50s,
Oh,
you know,
Yeah.
that's a.
Leanne,
Leanne's here.
want to come in, Leanne?
Here's a chair.
Wow.
We have a chair for you over here,
Over
Leanne.
here.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
So what was the approximate year of that, when that happened?
That
This
was
one here, That
32.
was the, what,
32.
32,
Yeah.
depression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of the worst times to have something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if by
Leanne, do you
scrambled
have
order.
a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this-
Because
you
Lynn
wanna
is
start
on,
with this one?
on
Yeah.
on deck, and then you can
Okay.
go,
Okay,
okay?
so somebody else can go.
So Lynn, are you ready?
I am.
Oh,
Okay, and what's your main theme?
Well, it was about this little boy, Connor,
Oh,
who had an affinity for cowboys and all things Wild West.
Yeah.
So
do you
I.
have any naked pictures?
I don't hear.
In the picture, he has his dad's cowboy
No
boots on, just so you
cowboys.
can see, which come up to his thighs. So I, took liberty and I just
Any
concocted
nature scene will do.
Nature? Yeah, I
a
would
poem
say.
for him
Okay.
called Little Buckaroo.
Oh.
So, let's see what you.
Okay, there's nature.
There we go.
All right, so. Where do little cowboys go when they drift off to dream? Perhaps they have their thirsty horse drinking water by a stream. Or maybe they are riding high across Montana plains to help out with the cattle drive before the heavy rains. They might be down in Abilene or on the Chisholm Trail, or helping out to drive the spikes that made the mighty rail. They could just dream of Tombstone or the outlaws in the town, or maybe of the old saloon where they'd lay their whiskey down. And then there is hot coffee heating on an open flame. With his horse hitched up, he can watch the stars as the wind whispers his name. Weary little cowboy, you love the West the best. So saddle up there, partner, and your dreams will do the rest. They'll take you to the things you love long after day is through, as you gallop all through dreamland, little sleepy buckaroo.
No,
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a grabber. Lynn has read this before,
Yeah, I
and
love
it
that.
goes over real well.
Yeah. Buckaroo.
The thing that is interesting about it, a lot of the stuff that I'm reading has that rhyme
Yeah.
to it, and so, in modern poetry, you can take the traditional and you can apply it to modern themes and that sort of thing. And it really enriches the whole brew. If you were talking about a tossed salad or something like that. So we've had examples here. And next we're going to listen to Leanne. Now, Pooja did have a haiku. She finished with a haiku. So that that's a segue to your haiku,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And Randy, you're all set with the pictures for Leanne, right?
Yeah, this one, we're starting with
We're
this one.
starting with that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Haiku is not something I wake up and say, hey, today I'm gonna write a haiku. It's when I see something, I usually take a photo and then it happens. So I was sitting with the dogs in my lap in the living room, early morning. It was about 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, that's a dog? I thought it was a rug. Well,
It's,
that's okay.
it's two dogs.
Oh, two
There's an
dogs.
ear.
Two puppies, yeah.
That's why I thought it was a rug.
There's
It looks like mine, a Yorkie, right?
Shorty.
Yeah,
Shih
right?
Tzu
Yep.
Yorkie.
Oh.
Yeah. So, a momentary pause, a sunbeam, cups of coffee, light and stress delayed.
Mhm.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks very peaceful.
That's every morning. That's how I start my mornings.
Mhm.
Coffee, crossword puzzles, and puppies in
And
my lap.
pups.
Aw, that's awesome.
You too, sweet Jonquil, have weathered the storms and still lift your face sunward. Those were in my front yard last week, or a couple weeks ago, and they grabbed me. The drops, they come through those storms.
Yeah.
You know, when that dries, they're going to be soaking in.
Right.
You do that with your phone camera? That's a great picture.
Yeah,
It's
that's
an
what I
excellent-
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about flowers, and it's probably because of my left brain nerdiness, is the beauty of the flower, the geometry.
Yes.
You know, you look at it, be it a tulip or a daffodil or
Yeah.
how do I, jonquil?
Jonquil. They're
It
like the
is-
teeny tiny daffodils,
Ah,
but they're called jonquils.
I know, but you know,
but they're mini daffs.
the
Yeah,
beauty,
yeah.
the beauty of the flower itself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you look at certain
That is true.
flowers, they're fractal. They have the mathematics of fractal within their petal structure.
Sure.
I do a lot of macro photography of flowers to where I get into the pistils and the stamens and any bugs that are in there or the pollen. I have pictures with a bee with pollen on its
Oh,
leg standing in
wow.
a flower.
That's cool.
So every once in a while, they inspire me to go a little further and write something.
That's a beautiful, I love the poem version.
Yeah.
I also love the picture itself.
Actually, this is one, it's worn now, but that's one of my photos made into my phone case. And you'll see some in the next one that I took the other day.
Mm.
Oh, I've seen this one.
Delicate brave buds, unfold for the coming May, come what may.
Oh.
Yeah, because Lily of the Valley is May's
Really?
flower.
It is, it was my mom's birth
Yeah.
flower, her
Mhm.
favorite.
Yeah.
And my stand of lilies, my dad was digging out part of the garden after she passed and gave me a bunch. So these are my mom's
They just.
lilies, and they come up in time for her birthday every year.
Beautiful.
So that's it. And if I can do a surprise poem without a picture,
Sure.
it's one I wrote the other day about the process of writing. It's very short.
Okay.
I was watching the American Academy of Poets annual Poetry and the Creative Mind Gala on YouTube. And it just inspired me to what those poets do. So poetry demands to be written. It does not ask, it does not suggest, it does not say pretty please. Poetry demands. The words repeat and repeat, drifting through the day. Is poetry a form of madness? Until pencil and paper are found, poetry demands, and words are written, passive voice intended, as I have little recollection of the act. Then the words slow to a stop. That's how it feels when I write.
Mhm.
The words are there, circling up here, and I'm pulling them down.
Mhm.
Barely know I'm putting them there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the haiku,
Yes.
if you're going to be writing it, and we've had two examples of people writing it, they look easy,
No,
but the craft of them, it really takes an effort. The key ingredient is this: you lead up to that last line. The last line has to have an impact which leaves the reader with a feeling, a guessing, a thing of I really like this. There's something about this that really draws me, and that last line has to have impact. So if you're doing haiku, you can fiddle around in the first two lines. Where's this going? Where's this going? And the path is not too long, and then boom, then you have the impact of the third line. That's what your haiku is all about.
Mhm.
Yeah. Quite honestly, the words coming May, come what may came first.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the rest
oh,
went
yeah.
around it, because I wanted to play with that coming May, come what may.
Right.
So I
It
Yeah.
worked.
That's
yeah.
what worked first, and then the rest brought in.
Mhm.
So
Thanks for sharing with
thank
us.
you for inviting me in.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you.
evening.
Nice
all
to
you
meet
poets.
you.
Nice to meet you too. I'll see you in crafting.
Okay, now we're ready for the mosquitoes. It's another springtime
Where's
treat
the
for the
spray?
summer. We go from the flowers to the mosquito.
Mosquitoes.
So we're starting with head.
Now, one of the famous people from South Brunswick that not too many people know about is Dr. Headley.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And Dr. Headley was recruited from the Midwest to destroy the mosquitoes in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And he happened to buy a house where Crossroads is, where the Five Corners are.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
think it's a house behind Wawa. I'm not sure the exact house,
Wow.
over where Doris Curran lived. And Dr. Headley was going to save the state of New Jersey because one of the worst things in New Jersey was the mosquito. And this goes all the way back to colonial times. They were complaining about the mosquito, the first Dutch and English people who got here. And so Dr. Headley was going to be a hero. Well, we still have mosquitoes today. So woulda, shoulda, coulda. Anyway, they praised him to the sky. And these are poems that were, actually, they applied them to songs. And they're all about Dr. Headley and what he's going to do. From Hoosier land 10 years ago, in our state you came, and now you're very dear to us, and also known to fame. We're here to tell you served us well. To Headley thanks are due. We trust that you'll be long with us, and best of luck to you. Now, he was going to need luck because he was fighting a battle that he could not possibly win.
Well, did he at least help advance research in reducing the population of mosquitoes or how to reduce the amount of diseases they spread?
His basic technique, as far as I know of it, he's an entomologist, was to work with the farmers and to try to get them to drain places that where water
Okay,
was
yeah,
collected.
because
Yeah.
Every
You know,
year they always announce like,
Yeah,
No
do not
standing
leave,
water.
no standing
yeah,
water.
yeah, right. And the farmers were famous for, oh, I gotta save this water here. We gotta have this barrel of water.
And there's a building named after him on Rutgers. On the
Yeah.
Rutgers campus,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but is that, there was a, I don't remember, so help me out. There were some scientists who were entomologists that were involved with the Panama Canal.
That's different.
That's different scientists.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 1920s. This is the second one. Doc's forever chasing skeeters through the air. They fly so high, nearly reach the sky. That Headley will catch them by and by. He traps them by the million. Night collections everywhere. He then evaluates the date till they die off in despair. And the last one. We're with Headley all the time. Yes, we're with you all the time. Your work upon the meadows and the uplands very fine. We'll shake your hand to beat the band, and that's a very good sign. We're with you, Dr. Headley. Yes, we're with you all the time. He needed all the help he could get. Okay, and now we're ready for Aradhana. And what's your main theme?
So this poem takes place in a hospital. It's interesting because in medicine, we call patients historians
Okay.
when they're telling us about their medical experiences and what they've been through. And we call the document that we take of all of the experiences you're telling us about your history.
Okay, good, good. Do you have a picture that, like some official office building?
I don't know. I'm looking. I don't think I have.
Picture of a dead mosquito?
I have mosquitoes.
It was the doctor's office.
Archival building. No, I'd have to import it. Oh, look. I have.
Oh, here we
a
go.
substitute.
There you go.
How about that?
There you go.
There's luck. There's fluxes for you.
Right?
That's
Didn't know
fluxes.
about the theme before.
Right now.
Okay, go ahead, you're on.
Okay, it's 6 a.m. and I've spilled knockoff Starbucks from the staff cafe onto my white coat. Patient is a reticent historian. I report to the attending on duty, hoping my badge covers the spreading brown stain. He's been on duty for 24 hours and doesn't have much time to waste. The stain holds his eyes longer than my nose. Eye contact is listed on student evaluations under communication, but it's not a requirement for attending physicians. What did you say? His eyes finally meet mine? A reticent historian, I repeat. Not poor, not uncooperative, just shy. And a little embarrassed, because it really isn't such a big deal. Not at all. After all I needed was someone to say I'm okay when I'm not. He nods without understanding. Your job is to get reticent people to talk. So I return after breakfast, because only the most withdrawn aren't warmed by semi-fresh pancakes and corn syrup. It sounds rough what you've been going through. I start. There's a long pause. Then a longer pause. And someone wheels a squeaky cart down the hall. Someone else's monitor goes off. And someone laughs a little too loudly. I can only imagine how difficult this must be. I say with professional sincerity. I met with a shrug, punctuated by a ringtone that no one makes any motion to get. I want to help, but I can only get treatment for the things you tell me about. And that inspires 30 minutes, in which it takes to get half as many words. Differential done, I go back and rattle off what the textbook terms relevant, letting the rest of the story stay bedded comfortably in the patient's heart and the social history. Providers give pain shape, make it legitimate to those who don't feel it. Providers write pain into vain.
That was something that you worked on. You did some revision on it. And it has that impact. Does anybody have any comments?
Are you working in the medical field yourself as a nurse or doctor or
Medical student.
medical student?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
As a,
Medical student, she said.
okay,
Yeah,
Wow.
we have stressed in the
Yeah.
workshop that right from experience. In other words, your experiences are a keen wealth of information to rely on when you're doing the creative writing. And this is a prime example of that, which is very good.
So what are the patients called? You said in the beginning, you said the
So,
patients were
history. We call patient a historian,
a historian.
and we say patient's a good historian if they give us all the information we need.
Okay,
We call them a poor historian if they don't.
okay.
Which I think is a little pejorative because you're implying that the patient is not doing their quote unquote job. Like there's a lot of factors that go into why someone might not want to tell you like
Sure.
every specific detail of their medical history.
Right.
So I like to use the expression reticent historian because it's the implication that they're not bad at it, they're just holding something back.
Okay.
And your job as the doctor or as the medical student is to figure out why they're doing that.
One time a doctor told me I was the best patient ever because I had all these notes and I thought he was gonna get mad at me because I had all these things. And he was looking through, he actually read it and I was so surprised. And he goes, you're like a model patient because he had everything he needed to go on. So I thought they were gonna say, like, I'm not gonna look at this stuff written by you, but it was funny. It was funny.
You're a natural born historian.
I was
Yes.
scared because I had a diagnosis. I was like, oh my God. So I looked everything up and
I had a similar experience. Once I went, I had a lot of documentations with the file,
Yeah.
with sorted with years. I was like, okay, this is what, okay, this is what, this is what. The same thing, doctor was surprised.
Yeah.
And she said, wow, you have all the documents. I was scared to go with a lot of information, but they
Me
were-
too,
they
because
were
I thought he wasn't gonna, I didn't know what he was gonna do, but he actually, I didn't make it too long because I think I don't wanna, be too much. And he actually read them all and I was, my wife and I were looking at him, reading it. And I was just so surprised. I'm like, he's actually reading through and he actually read back and you could tell he comprehended it. And I was like, wow, this is great. So he's still my doctor, so.
Wow,
Good.
that's good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I have a limitation. I obviously wear hearing aids, so I wasn't able to hear your words.
Oh.
I would love it if possible if you could print it out and leave it with, because it's easier for me. I listen.
We have a copy
Yeah.
from the workshop.
Mhm.
But this
So
is
we
like
can
the
get you a
end.
copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would suggest that, the next time you have something like this, like you had copies to hand out to people, have copies to hand out. Because some of the people here, and this is for everybody, some of the people here are reading learners as opposed to auditory learners.
Mhm.
And so if you want to hit your audience real well, it's sort of like we show a visual. That's for visual learners.
Mhm.
Okay, so the reading part is good too. And it doesn't hurt to have the copies and then you hand them out. And so somebody can be reading along while you're reading it aloud. That's something for the
Well,
future.
tell us about what's up here.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because the next person we have to talk about is
I
Don
also wanted
Fagan.
to comment
Oh,
one thing.
Dante.
Yeah.
Your poem was really good, but a little bit louder might have been,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
I could
Yeah,
have
it was
Right.
hard to hear.
heard,
Yeah.
heard properly.
Or
Little
if
bit
you
louder
could
should
take
be
off your
Yeah,
mask.
it
I
was
don't know
muffled,
if you're
yeah.
allowed to do that, or.
It's
it was-
possible that because she works in a hospital setting, she
Yeah,
needs to
okay.
maintain her health.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
As
it
to
does
not
muffle with
accidentally.
Yeah,
words.
it's amazing how
But
the
it's-
lips, and when your lips
Oh,
are
yeah.
moving, and
You can-
people can pick
Yeah,
up
exactly.
the words that you're saying without
Yes.
even hearing
Mhm.
the part. That's a visual learner who's picking it up as
Yeah, but-
opposed to an auditory learner.
So she just
I,
needs
you,
to.
you raised an idea which I didn't even think about. She's thinking about the people she's going to.
Right.
I'm just making
Right.
an
No,
assumption.
that is why.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
have patients that have like all sorts of diseases and
Yes.
everything.
Because if someone in this room had a cold, that's not gonna
Mhm.
harm any of us in the room, but that could harm someone
Yeah,
else.
right.
So that to me was one of the key takeaways of COVID,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because I was in a choir at the very beginning.
Mm,
And when the very first, there was a choir in Washington, and how that
mm,
was
Oh, yeah, they spread it all
Airborne.
around, yeah.
And another thing to do, if you're in that situation and you're wearing masks, stuff, is ask for a mic
Oh,
and
okay.
amplify your voice through the mic, and that could be right where you're sitting.
Yeah.
And that'll be good, because at business meetings and so forth, they use a mic. And so don't be afraid to do that, because as I said, and I told you this in the workshops, you have to be assertive. You have to be, you have to be pushy. And poets just gotta do it. You can't be, wishy-washy about things. It's time to take a stand, okay?
Oh, I love this
And
story.
you want to do that. Okay, let's talk about people taking a stand.
So let me just.
This is Don Fagan.
Well, let's
What
talk
do you
about-
want to do?
Real quick, I want to talk about Don Fagan, Steely Dan. He's probably one of the most famous
Steely Dan.
people who came from South Brunswick.
mhm.
So,
He's
he's a
the
rock,
most famous musician.
famous musician. Yeah, okay. And then but he famously didn't like it here, and he always talks about, he's not going to come back. He didn't have a good time. They've even interviewed him recently about it. But the thing is, he made a lot of money off his teenage angst, from talking about how he didn't have a good time here. But these are some of his lyrics from one of the bigger songs. And that's a picture, an artist rendition of Crossroads, which was the high school that he went to. And right now it's Crossroads Middle School. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Is that crosses north or south?
South, that's
South,
yeah. Don Fagan was a city kid, and he loved to sneak away and get on a bus and go into New York. He hated being around here. And we got to keep in mind that the time he was here, this was the first early years of Kendall Park. And Kendall Park was the part of South Brunswick that changed us from a farm community to a bedroom community, with the commuters, people going elsewhere to work, but coming home to rest and eat and so forth. And there was not much for kids to do. And one of the things that people in Kendall Park did was demand a high school. Before Kendall Park, the high school kids went to Jamesburg High School,
Oh.
Princeton High School, and New Brunswick High School.
Wow.
They didn't even all go to the same high school to get beat up by the kids from the town. They had to be beat up at three different places.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
it was screwy,
The Kendall Park was 50s,
late fifties.
late 50s.
Yeah.
And people didn't really start moving in until 60, 61. The other interesting thing about Don Fagan was he lived on Jolene. And that's off of Kendall Road. If you know Kendall Road, that's the one that's the horseshoe right in the dead center. And Jolene's off of that. And another poet lived on the same street.
Oh,
And there was a critic who wrote and said, the Kendall Park sound in rock and roll is up and coming.
Oh, my goodness.
And Don Fagen's type of music is jazz oriented rock.
Yeah.
And the other one, I'm not giving the name yet because I haven't introduced you yet, was Beatles type, pop rock. And so they were different night and day. But the critic was putting it together as if, oh, this new sound in rock and roll is going to come out of Kendall Park and put us on the map.
I mean, we
Can you
eventually,
imagine if that took off?
I mean,
Yeah.
we eventually got it with Bon Jovi, so.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not South Brunswick.
Right.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay. This is one that mentions the air raid shelter that Don Fagen's father built in his backyard off
Oh.
on Jolie.
Wow.
It's called New Frontier. Yes, we're going to have a wingding, a summer smoker underground. It's just a dugout that my dad built in case the Reds decide to push the button down. We've got provisions, lots of beer. The key word is survival on the New Frontier. Introduce me to that big blonde. She's got a touch of Tuesday Will. She's wearing ambush and a French twist. She's got us wild and she can tell. She loves to limbo, that much is clear. She's got the right dynamic for the New Frontier. Well, I can't wait till I move to the city, till I finally make up my mind to learn design and study overseas. Have you got a steady boyfriend? 'Cause honey, I've been watching you. I hear you're mad about Brubeck. I like your eyes. I like him too. He's an artist, a pioneer. We've got to have some music on the New Frontier. Well, I can't wait till I move to the city, till I finally make up my mind to learn design and study overseas. Let's pretend that it's the real thing and stay together all night long. And when I really get to know you, we'll open up the doors and climb into the dawn. Confess your passion, your secret fear. Prepare to meet the challenge of the New Frontier.
Is that Don Fagen right there?
That Don Fagen
Oh,
wrote.
I love that.
Yeah. I tell you, the guy was really, I keep using past tense.
Yeah.
His partner, the band that they had was Steely Dan.
Steely Dan.
And it was actually two guys who were doing the music. And it was all studio generated type music with a jazz thing behind it. But he lost his partner. And he's still performing. I have one more poem by
Hey, good
Don
music.
Fagen.
Yeah.
And this is sort of about Jersey girls, and Bruce Springsteen's written about Jersey girls and so forth. And that's a big thing. So maybe this is about Kendall Park girls. Who knows? This is called Tomorrow's Girls. Our town is just like any other, good citizens at work and play, normal folks doing business in a normal way. This morning was like any other, mommy's kissing daddy's goodbye. Then the milkman screamed and pointed up at the sky. From Sheilas to the reefs of Kismar, from Stargate to the outer worlds, they're speeding towards our sun. They're on a party run. Here come tomorrow's girls. Tomorrow's girls. You see them on the grass at lunch hour, soaking up the vertical rays in their summer dresses. A little smile can really make your day. Their kisses feel like real kisses, and when they cry real tears. But what's left in your arms when the static clears? They're landing on the Jersey beaches. Their engines make the white sand swirl. The heat is so intense. Earthmen have no defense against tomorrow's girls. In the cool of the evening, in the last light of the triple sun, I wait by the go tree when the day's busy work is done. Soon the warm night breezes start rolling in off the sea. Yes, at lantern time, that's when you come to me. Come to me. Our home is just like any other. We're grilling burgers in the back lawn. Some time goes by, we fall asleep with the TV on. I dream about a laughing angel. Then the laugh becomes a furious whine. Look out, fellas, it's shredding time. They're mixing with the population, a virus wearing pumps and pearls. Lord help the lonely guys, hooked by those hungry eyes. Here come tomorrow's girls, tomorrow's girls. And
Where is he living now? Where is he living?
he's in New York, I believe. Yeah, he's a city guy all the way, and we're glad we had him for the time that we
That's
did.
awesome. Yeah, that's him there.
The one
Yeah,
on the right?
that was when he was in high school in a
left
play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was voted most dramatic.
yeah.
Most what?
He's
Dramatic,
not really a
most
dramatic guy. He's sort of like a grumpy person, difficult to deal with. But one of his first performances was in the Grange.
Was it?
And he was up on stage. They have a stage there.
Yeah.
Oh, my
And he was up on stage with a jazz trio, and the other two were teachers at South Brunswick High.
Wow.
And he started early, and he was destined for great things.
I love Steely Dan's.
And that's a famous ad there to get people to come
Yeah,
to
it looks
Kendall
like
Park.
great big world of Kendall.
And they're pointing at the dirt roads in the rain, and how horrible that scooter's going to look after they go through it.
Okay.
And the homes, I think I heard this from a woman who was born and raised here in the ranch homes.
Yeah,
And then it was called Levittown at one time.
well,
Those
yeah,
Pennsylvania.
the
Yeah,
Kendall
yeah.
who did it was, Levittown was, of course, there's a Long Island one as well, in
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
But it's a Levittown model.
yeah.
It just took Kendall's name and they made it
Yeah.
Kendall Park.
Look at that picture.
Yeah, that's the Kendall Park under
Right.
construction.
Oh, my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I love it.
The key
Yeah.
here is, now believe it or not, Kendall Park in prehistoric times was a lake.
It was.
And close to New Road, when they were putting in the sewer pipes in the late 50s, early 60s, they found dinosaur bones.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
those dinosaur bones were associated with a water reptile,
Wow.
which sort of proved that this was a lake area.
Wow.
And of course, millions of years passed by and it became what it became.
Isn't that funny?
And there was all sorts of people owning this land, and Kendall had a hard time buying people out. And the
What's the name of the
pioneers who
dinosaur?
came in,
So Kendall was the actual guy.
yeah, and
Alright.
the way he did this, he was taking a trip on 27, and he looked out the window and he said, this might be a good place to build some houses. And he wanted to build thousands more than were actually built. And the township wouldn't, they didn't like the idea.
Wow.
And because the people coming in were going to change the culture of the community.
Right.
They did.
And this was a real, for a while, the very liberal, radical, progressive people coming into Kendall Park compared to the conservative, staid, traditional farmers who were in the other areas of the town, trouble was going to occur. And there was a little trouble. And one of the problems was whether you're going to have a high school or not. Well, Kendall Park people won, and they got the high school. But as I understand it, Fagan's house was torn down.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's on Jolene anymore, so it can't be a historic landmark.
Wow.
It's too late.
All right.
Weren't these houses built also to give the GIs and their family an
Oh, yeah.
affordable home to
Oh,
live
yeah.
in?
Yeah, well, that's Levittown, that's the whole thing.
And
The
this
thing
too.
that's great, I want to mention is, if you
That's
go to Levittown, Pennsylvania, or Long Island,
Yeah.
the houses are very close together. What Kendall decided, and
Yeah.
this was very good, he did this, was to have lots of property
Property,
for
yeah.
one house.
Nice.
So that you don't have people on top of each other,
Right.
and you have this, and I think the reason he did this was as a compromise to the farm community, that we're not gonna crowd all these people together to make it look like it's a city within
Yeah.
a town, you know,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it got a rural look to it, even though it was a suburban community. And Fagan was in the midst of all that.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendall.
Okay, and Barbara,
Yes.
we are ready for you.
All right.
And what's your main thing?
Well, this is the station house. You've heard this poem
Okay.
before. I was inspired to write this by reading The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. So I don't know if you have a picture of it.
Okay, how about any woodland scene?
Slack Carroll House. I know it wasn't an Underground Railroad house, but it could have been.
I couldn't get, yeah. I
Or
can't
any
get-
old house. Doesn't
Any old, I don't
Any-
know.
You have Route 27
Oh, well,
rustic,
whatever, yeah, okay.
and anything with trees and stuff like that. Okay, there you go.
No old houses, huh? All right.
No house.
Yeah, but consider that waterway a road. In a way,
Barbara,
it
what is
was.
it, Underground Railroad by whom?
Colson Whitehead. He wrote the book called The Underground Railroad.
And I'll explain how that's part of the Underground Railroad. So go ahead, Bob.
All right. Okay. There is a stop here, cold and clammy, just like the others. Clandestine travelers exit at this station and wait. It's always night in the station. Weary eyes cannot see. Sacks of potatoes on the station floor. A traveler trips and falls. A traveler stands, bumps his head. Their memories haunt their souls, those left behind to suffer more. This train of last resort, this dark passage to the promised land. Sound of footsteps above, friend or captor, they know not. Hours and hours, endless time. One traveler gently sings, swing low, sweet chariot. The trapdoor opens, spark of blinding light. They turn their eyes away for just 1 second. Above, the sympathizer passes down provisions. Hush, be quiet, be patient, he whispers. They board the next train that stops at the station. Above, the sympathizer finally breathes.
There you go.
And I'm sure that took place in this town.
There were some Underground Railroad houses, but yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, he writes as if the Underground Railroad actually is underground. It's like an allegory kind
Yes,
of, you know.
yeah.
But anyway, so
It's underground in the sense of secretive,
yeah.
and we don't know exactly where all the locations were, but since we've done research on it, we know exactly where they were in South
Write down the
Brunswick.
name for me,
The book and the author.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
please.
Now, if you came up Route 27, before it was Route 27, and you got up to the Higgins house, you know where the Higgins house is?
No.
That's that red house where they do the yoga and so forth.
Where,
It's right after the Amish market.
Yes,
Right
I know
after the
where it
Amish
is.
market.
Okay, yeah.
Right, Diana, are you familiar with it? Okay,
Yeah.
if you take a right turn, okay, the Gulick house, there's a Gulick house there. And that was, they were hiding people in the cellar that were in the Underground Railroad. And then you had an AME church where the old road is. That's going up the hill, and where Route 27 used to go, there's a sign that says the old road.
Huh.
And it says, welcome to Franklin Park, because Franklin Park owns that sliver of land, which is on the South Brunswick side.
Wow.
And that church was also hiding people.
In Red Maple Farm on Raymond.
That's the one I'm talking about with the Gulick.
Okay,
Red
Gulick
Maple
House, okay.
Farm. Now, you get down to the canal and the river, because what these people were doing, escaping from the south, is coming up from Philadelphia and point south, Burlington and so forth, trying to get through this area. The bounty hunters were on the bridge going from New Brunswick to Highland Park. And they were there to arrest the escaped slaves and bring them back to the south. But the slaves didn't use the bridge to get across to North Jersey. What they did was use the White Mansion. Now, do you know Bucklew Park in New Brunswick? Some people say Bucala Park,
No.
across from St.
Right.
Peter's Hospital.
Right.
Oh.
There's a park there,
Not that
St.
familiar.
Peter's Hospital.
Okay.
Anyway, the White Mansion was there because Colonel White owned that building. The DAR for New Brunswick area has their headquarters there. Anyway, in the basement was where they hid escaped slaves, part of the Underground Railroad. So this is the main route that involves South Brunswick. Coming up Route 27 at night, okay, getting to the Gulick House, getting to the AME church, and then waiting till the next night and getting to New Brunswick, hiding there, okay, waiting another night. And then there allegedly was a tunnel from the White Mansion basement to the canal. what they found was they found something that was like a tunnel, but they're saying, nah, it couldn't be it. So that's up in the air. That's questionable. But instead of going to the bridge to get across, they took boats and they got across the Raritan River that way. And then they headed up through Piscataway and so forth, got up there. Their goal was to get to where? Canada. Okay, and so they had to get all the way up to Buffalo. Once they got to Buffalo, then it was easy going. Then they could get across to Canada. Very dangerous, very secretive, but you had station masters, and some of the station masters were in South Brunswick, so we played a role in that. And so, Barb, your poem is very timely and fits in with the historical
That's
aspect of it. Okay, now, Julio, did you have something for us?
Oh, yes.
Okay, you're on deck. Just hold on. I got to do some stuff here. Now, if somebody has another poem to do, be ready because we're running out of time and I'm running a bit behind. Chris Friedfeld was the founder of the Beatles, and this is the other character on Jolene, contributing to the Kendall Park sound. The one you don't know about is Chris Friedfeld, but he has CDs like Fagan does. They didn't sell as well. And so this is one of his poems. And try to think of the Beatles and so forth when you're listening to him. My sense of wonder. My sense of wonder, playing all the records in my house. My strength from under. Bob Dylan wasn't bad. Maybe Donovan needed some restraint from mantra-driven oracles, and Tommy was so sad, so sad. His buddy Arthur and the symphony to God, never known as a non-believer, while Mooney tossed the coffee table. My sense of wonder, living all the records in my house, still feel the thunder. You really should have been there, February 9th, 1964. All my loving changed the freaking world. All the chords we learned, A, E, D, G, harmonizing at the Cambridge School, and more while someone pressed the record button. Meeting John after Sweeney Todd. Oh yeah, imagine what he would say. In the lobby after Sunday show. Up from second balcony, John in the 10th row. 3 smiling angels. Dr. O'Boogie ought to know. They're smiling for Sweeney. Dedicated young men. 2 guitars in a green amp. Muswell Hill. Then the old man rolled a hairy rag. Count the gigs you play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turning up for a Tuesday set is hard. When no one's there except the little bar flies. And that's an allusion to Don Fagan. My sense of wonder, thoughts and words imprint magnetic tape. Well, now done with numbers. My sense of wonder, monkeys pictures, 16 magazine. Hey, hung up old Mr. Normal. All the records cried out. My sense of wonder, psychedelic yogi, XYC. Oh, Johnny Thunder. All the records cried out. It's my favorite game. Don't stop. Now that's a stream of conscious type of poem. And that's where you just let everything go and what you feel, what you think at the moment, you put it down. And of course, he's grounded in the music. And so you get a lot of mention of that and so forth. And so you have to need some background in order to feel that, to understand that. Okay, Julio, you want to give us what you have?
Yes.
And speak loud and clear.
Okay, the title of this poem is called Thank You. I heard her crying. We recently bought a home. She wasn't homesick. She was just happy and blessed. She thought she'd never find love.
It's almost like a haiku.
Well, this is actually like called a tanka. Tanka,
Yes.
which is an extended version of a haiku.
Okay. Yes.
Like there's 3 lines. Like the first line has 5 syllables. The second line has 7 syllables. The third line has 5 syllables. And the last 2 lines are 7 syllables. That's how it is.
This is like a chess game where Julio's trying to do one better than the haiku people. Go ahead, storm on.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
You got another one?
So I had a professor in community college. It's so short. He taught a form of it's not exactly poetry, but it's called 6-word stories. So you just come up with 6 words and you make it a story. We shared our warmth. Winter lost.
That's it?
Yeah.
It's
a
a
story.
Pretty good, huh?
It's a story.
But it's telling a story.
Yeah.
There you go. And that segues nicely into Anna Quinlan. Now, Anna Quinlan is a writer of prose. But interesting enough, when I started checking this out, the first pages of her book always include a poem.
Wow.
And you'll probably pick out the one that doesn't have one, but most of hers have it. And I'll read you a few that she has, and they're from famous people, so you may have heard them. This is from Emily Dickinson, quoted by Anna Quinlan. Fame is a bee, it has a song, it has a sting. Ah, too, it has a wing. She also quoted W.S. Merwin. Your absence has gone through me like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with its color. Sarah Teasdale. There will be stars over the place forever, though the house we loved and the street we loved are lost. Every time the earth circles her orbit on the night of the autumn equinox is crossed. 2 stars we knew, poised on the peak of midnight, will reach their zenith. Stillness will be deep. There will be stars over the place forever. There will be stars forever while we sleep. And this is Philip Larkin. There is an evening coming in across the fields one never seen before, that lights no lamps. Silken it seems at a distance, yet when it is drawn up over the knees and breast, it brings no comfort. Where has the tree gone that locked earth to the sky? What is under my hands that I cannot feel? What loads my hands down? And the last one is from William Butler Yeats. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet, but I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
And she quoted those in her books.
Yes, she has good taste. And she is the most famous prose writer from South Brunswick. And went to South Brunswick High too, just like Fagan did.
Very cool.
Are these available to take?
I'm not sure what year she
I
graduated.
saved these.
That's her
from
picture,
Peter.
right?
What?
Yeah, that's
I gotta keep them here.
What year she graduated?
But they are, she has
I think
several in the
70
library, you can check it
I
out.
can check it out. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the early 70s.
Yeah, I think so.
Very cool.
Okay, Randy, how much time do we have? We're at 8:00.
Well, yeah, we usually,
I'm
that's
ready.
a good, yeah,
Past my
that's a good time.
I'm getting snoozy.
Okay,
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow at 10, yeah, right.
yeah, I have one, well, I can read one more and I'll give you the choices. Hayes Davis is our example of African-American poet. And he's writing about Route 1 and Highland Park. We have Joyce Greenberg Lott, who was an English teacher at South Brunswick High and probably one of the best-known contemporary poets in South Brunswick.
Right.
And she has sort of the longing to as many Jersey people do, get out of the state and go have a vacation somewhere because you can't take New Jersey anymore. We've all experienced that. And then I have a poem about George Siegel by Robert Pinsky. What's your choice? And we'll finish with whatever your
I'm
choice is.
personally done, but I'd like to know more. How often do you guys get together? Or
We get together, well, we gamble and we bet on the horses and so forth. That's on a weekly basis.
Whenever he sends out an email, John.
Yeah.
pretty much.
It's usually
We
every other
meet Twice
Thursday.
a month, John.
Twice a month.
Yeah.
And when we're permitted to use this room, this is where we're located. And by the way, there hasn't been change for May, I gotta tell you. So which poem would you like to finish with?
I'd like to hear about Route One. It's there all the time.
Great,
Yeah.
okay, we take it for granted.
Yes,
Right.
we do.
Do you know how old Route 1 is?
No, but considering how old 27 is, they run parallel to each other. Did it come after Route One?
Yeah,
Did
it
it come
came
after
after,
27?
it came after, you're safe on that. I was amazed because, as I said, I told you, I'm doing the research now on 1800 to 1825. Route 1 was the Trenton, let me see, what do they call it? The Newark Trenton Turnpike. They charged money to be on it, they had gates on it, people had to pay. It was a dirt road, horrible. Okay, it had the hill, sand hill, you had to push the wagons up the hill.
Oh, my God.
And 1804.
Wow.
A lot of people don't realize how old that road is. You know,
I
they
think
just
it's
assume, oh,
interesting.
Route 27,
Yeah.
George's Road, and Cranberry South River Road. But Route 1 was there early on.
So 27 came in what year? Like-
27 was built probably around the time Higgins came in. It got started, because it got started in New Brunswick.
So centuries.
Yeah, I would say in the first decade of the 1700s,
Okay,
they
yeah.
started working on
So
it.
but before
1700.
then, we think it was Native American.
Yeah, it was a trail, and that's how the first settlers got here, using a trail. Okay, so you want the
So
Hayes
if you look
Dam.
at this, you can see the Solar Motel. Well, it's not there anymore, but it's right on 522 when you cross
Oh,
over
look
Route
at
1. This is
that.
probably from the early 60s.
Well, that's good. That's good.
It's right. It's
Oh, my
522.
goodness.
Look, this is looking north. So Dow Jones, well, what now is Dow Jones is just to the right of the picture, and the Solar
So this is-
Motel.
This is like Old Bridge Road.
522.
Route 1 going
Yeah.
north.
This is north, yeah.
Yeah,
And then,
Too.
but what's funny is,
Funny.
look, there's no. It's the daytime. There's one truck up. So, yeah, so that's funny.
You won't see that
Now, you
now.
can
No,
imagine
yeah.
how it was. when
Don't
it
have
was
that
built.
hard shoulder.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the hard shoulder, right?
Okay, let's get through this. Hayes Davis went to South Brunswick High School. He spent his college years in the DC area, and he's down there at a private school teaching.
Oh.
But he's also a poet, and he's been published quite often, and nobody knows about him, except me, and I find these people for some reason. Okay, this is entitled Route 1 North, Philadelphia to Highland Park. Your father has given you the wheel. The mostly empty highway offers you your 17-year-old road eyes no distractions, and the Firebird descending on the on-ramp is red. The left turn signal isn't instinctive yet, nor is the glance that checks your blind spot before the lane change. But as you settle back into the forward focus of highway driving, your father's hand covers your gear shift perched. Right, his mouth curling before opening. Good job. He doesn't remind you that sharing the road with newcomers is less instinctual for you than your blind spot check. He is all praise, and when the therapist asks 10 years later what you miss, how you imagined him feeling when you pictured handing over the grandchild he will never know, you remember that he never held praise too tightly, that he knew confidence as a vested commodity, its installation as vital as anything fathers give sons.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice, nice
my
choice.
kids tell me when they first learned to drive and they got their license, because I taught them to drive, that there was a little voice in their head my nagging voice telling them, slow down, watch around, they said they couldn't have any fun because I was nagging.
You were still there.
Oh, yeah, because I was worried, so I nagged at them constantly.
Aw.
Randy, thank you.
Okay, I want to
Yes,
thank
thank
everybody for
you.
Thank you.
participating.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think it went very well. We're making progress. And before you know it, we'll be on the steps of the White House, giving oration to the president. It probably won't be President Trump.
Oh, my
Probably-
goodness.
Probably take a little longer than that.
Yeah, I hope
There
not.
was a change in
Yes,
schedule.
there's a change.
Was it
Uh,
Give you my phone
The
number.
first
Yes,
one
oh,
is
let me-
for
I
the 8th.
apologize, that's, I got
That's
the
a
wrong
Thursday. But the next one has been moved up to the
Wait a
29th.
number. We were,
29th?
what I had
29th.
said, and it was just, I haven't seen you, and I
Okay,
just wanna
not the
make sure that you
22nd,
knew
but the
that it
29th.
was tonight.
And I'll send
Okay, so
out
I
an
had
email on it.
615 414
Okay, and again, thanks for
7214.
coming. Randy, great job on the visual.
you.
Oh, I
You
transposed.
were
Somebody
like
else
our
commented. Oh, well, I don't know.
six-man poet.
You know, in terms of poets of today, one of the ones for me that blew my mind
No, it isn't.
was Amanda Gorman
Piece of paper.
on the
Text, I'm
inauguration
gonna
in
add
2020, because I'd never heard of it.
Oh, the young girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was in her 20s.
I thought she was younger than
I
that.
put my email address on there if you want to contact me about that.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
All right, okay.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Okay,
Lot of
mine
work,
is
man.
712.